is Tuesday morning, 9:30. It is KCIM Sports Rewind time. That's why Sports Director Jeff Blankman and KC Miners are in here, not just because of my sparkling personality. Well, hold on. Let me turn on your microphones.
Okay. Are you sure?
I feel like the half an hour would go quicker if I turn on your microphones. If it's a one-sided conversation, it might be a really long half hour.
You can just let KC's on and yours on. I'll just stay quiet.
No. You fill most of the time anyway. So, yeah, a busy week last week.
Yeah.
For you guys racing between just Merchant Stadium here and Harlan Rogers Park up in Fort Dodge. But fun week, no doubt about that. So we're going to dive into state baseball and softball. Did want to start with this, though. Jake Belt did text us and said great turnout for their youth tournament in Breda. So, yeah, way to go for you guys up there. About almost 40 kids, I think he said.
Yeah. So congratulations to them. They put such hard work into that and do such a tremendous job of putting that on. So that's good to see that we've got some young kids interested in getting back into golf and kind of maybe regrowing, the sport of golf here in the area a little bit. So cool to see.
Yeah, like you said before, that there were days when every top-ranked team in the state was here in Carroll County. So we kind of want to return to some of that going up there very soon. So, also, we're about a month away from college football. August 31st. Crazy. I just looked at the Cyclone schedule over there. They've got North Dakota August 31st and July 30th.
That's not going to be an easy one. Not going to be an easy one. That's all I'm saying. Not going to be an easy one.
The Fighting Hawks rolling into Hilton, to Jack Trice Stadium there. So, it's going to be fun, though. Just a month away. The college football season is going to be crazy, I think, this year.
Yeah, I literally recorded last week's Big Ten Media Days and got a chance last night.
I'm sure you did the same, Casey, right?
Yeah. I've got this handy little thing called Twitter and social media. I just look at the clips. I don't have to go back home and watch the whole thing to figure out what Matt Rule had to say about the Huskers.
Well, but you get clips, you don't get the whole story. You don't get what all the players that were there said. And I'd like to watch all the other coaches as well.
Well, I
watched Kirk Ferentz's press conference.
Did you see that Kirk Ferentz got interviewed by Jay Higgins?
I did. I also
All-American linebacker.
Yeah, and I also saw it, and I'm drawing a blank on his name. The new coach at UCLA was very uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
Having to be up in front of the media. But yeah, finally got a chance last night to sit down and watch about the first hour and a half of it. So I got about 5.5 hours to go, and I'll get through all of it. So
wow, this is what he does in his spare time, folks.
Yes.
So Iowa offense. Kirk Ferentz is bullish on this new offense, supposedly. I heard him making some comments saying, hey, we could be a really good offensive team.
Yeah, and that's where you get the clips and you don't get the whole story. He also said that there's an awful lot of work to go in the next 4 weeks.
No, there's going to be. I mean, when you're the worst offense in the country the last 3 years, if we go from 130 to 100,
it's growth.
Yeah.
It's growth. Absolutely. Hey.
With that defense, you're a national championship contender.
We were 128, so I'm right there with you. So.
We've won 10 games the last 2 out of the last 3 years with a crappy offense.
Yeah, and we've won less than 6 with turning the ball over and losing a lot of one-score games.
Yeah, you got the Kirk Ferentz way of doing it and the anti-Kirk Ferentz way of doing it out there in Nebraska. So, but Matt Rule's got some great recruits coming in.
He does.
I mean, he's been hitting that trail hard, and a lot of folks are starting to pay attention a little bit.
Yeah, David Sanders Jr., the number 1 offensive lineman in the nation and number 2 player in the recruiting class, was there this weekend, and he had a verbal already to Tennessee, and now they're kind of getting nervous that they think they may have lost him. So I was reading some stuff on a Tennessee website last night, and they think they may have lost him. I don't think he's gone. I think he'll end up going to Tennessee. But cool to see that level of player, again, is coming back to Nebraska and at least giving it a good thought. And I think that hopefully will bode well for the future. Now, I think if they can get some W's this year, they could win 7 or 8, and I'm not saying they're going to, but if they could win 7 or 8 and show that progress, I think all of a sudden you start to see some of those guys starting to actually come into town.
Yeah. If you ask everybody, you're going to be undefeated going into Ohio State or something like that. 7. A lot of people think you're going to be like 8-0 going into Ohio State.
That is the stupid, national media people. That ain't Oscar fans saying that stuff. No. That's all the national media people talking like that. So.
But it's going to be a fun college football season with all the new rivalries and matchups and things like that. It's we've never seen this before. I'm looking forward to it a lot.
I am too. It'll be interesting to see. how the Big Ten plays out with all the 4 new teams. It'll be interesting to see how the Big 12, where does Iowa State fit in this year with the Utahs and the Colorados and the Arizona schools that are coming into the league, and how do they fit into the mix, and how does Oklahoma and Texas, sit with the SEC, and what happens with Florida State and Clemson. I know they're not out before this season starts, but they've got the lawsuit where they're trying to sue the ACC and get out. So how does that play out? Well, next off season might be as crazy as what this one was. So
I think Colorado is one of the most interesting ones because, it's basically a brand new team every year with Deion Sanders. Yep. And how long is that experiment going to last? How long are fans going to want to say, okay, let's just blow up the team every year. We'll just pay a bunch of players to come in and we'll be winners. I just don't think it's that easy.
I think this year will determine it. If they have success and make a bowl game, win 7, 8, 9, 10 games, I think you'll see this trend of how he wants to build it. If they win 3 or 4 games, 5 games or something, and don't go to a bowl game and it looks like it's not working, I think then you'll start to see the people out there start to turn a little bit.
I don't know if it's the fact that he wants a new team every year. I just think that they bring in 50-some guys from the transfer portal every year, and probably 30 of them aren't seeing the field throughout the year, so then they end up transferring, and then they bring in 50 more guys. And it's,
I was going to say, you can't hit on all 50.
Yeah.
You're going to bring in problems.
He's lost a lot of starters, though, to the transfer portal because of, hey, you're not quite good enough, get out of here type of thing and stuff like that. So, yeah, he's constantly, it's like, for him, it's the NFL free agency, and he's just trying to go out and sign as many free agents as what he can every year. So
a showcase for his son at quarterback.
Absolutely.
That's basically what that is.
I won't be totally surprised if he's not gone after this year or next year anyway on his own accord, and this was a stepping stone. I know he says he loves it out there, but what coach doesn't say, I love it where I'm at, while they're secretly, heck, the Texas A&M baseball coach took him to the national championship game in the press conference, said, I'm here, I'm an Aggie, and like less than 24 hours later, he's already gone. So and I'm not blaming him or anything. I'm just saying there's not a coach out there that's going to say, I'm looking around.
Look at Kalen DeBoer at Washington, took him to a national title and left for Alabama. It's you want to get that better job.
Yep.
Yeah. Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame to go to LSU. He wanted to win that championship and all of a sudden adopted a Southern accent once he got down there. It was crazy. So college football not that far away, but we got to wrap. Let's talk a little high school football here. You guys hearing any rumblings out there of anything, and when do camps start and all of that?
Well, they're not this week. This week.
It's the dead week,
right? So they'll start next week, and I think Casey and I are both very excited. I think we've got a chance to have some really good football teams here in the area.
A lot of our teams bring back key pieces from last year's squads, and I think a lot of our teams finished. I think all of them finished right at a 500 or above 500 last year. So, it's going to be a very interesting football season.
Yeah, Kemper probably looks like they could be pretty elite this year from everything that I'm hearing and stuff. So not to put any pressure on them before things get started, but they seem to be the team around here that everybody's probably talking about the most. But I think we've got the chance to have some really strong football teams in the area.
Yeah, I don't think it's you guys that put the pressure on the teams. It's the fan bases that put the pressure on all the teams out there and things. So who else is looking like they might? They could really have some kind of a special year.
I think IK Manning you got to throw in there.
Yep, I think Audubon.
You look at Audubon. Audubon's district's going to have Audubon, Glidden, and Kuhn.
Right.
And all three of those teams bring back, either their leading rusher last year, their one of their top receivers, 4 guys on their defense. But I was looking yesterday, and every single team in that district, I think it's 8-man District 2 or something like that.
Yeah.
Every single one of those teams brings back either their leading rusher and their leading receiver. So that district is going to be crazy this year.
Really good. Yep.
But I expect Kuhn to be improved. They were playing good football, at the end of last year, and really came on. I think Caden Oswald could have a really big year for him. That district, I think, is going to be crazy good.
I like what Arweva could do if they can stay healthy. They're not going to have a lot of numbers, like they're probably never going to have a lot of numbers again, but I think they've got the potential to be really strong this year. I'm interested to see what Carroll does, because I think Carroll's got the potential to be strong this year.
They were banged up last year.
And I think that they're going to be healthier this year. I think it'll be interesting. The only question I have, and it's not on them, it's the rest of that district last year kind of had an off year. You don't see those Northwest Iowa schools have off years 2 years in a row very often.
I've just been kind of going through stuff, getting ready for football season, and a lot of teams lost a lot of their good guys from last year.
Yep. So Elon graduated almost everybody.
Yeah, but MOC brings back a lot of MOC was a good team last year, and they bring back almost everybody. So I think MOC is probably the favorite in that district, and plus the familiarity with the teams. I mean, they've been playing each other for 4 straight years now.
Right. Yep.
The last year that they're probably going to be in the district, unless the state for some reason decides to put them again.
Keep that district exactly the same again.
But I don't know. Yeah, Carroll's going to be interesting. I think you bring back Carter Essick, Reese Sigmund. Missed some time last year. He's going to be back.
Yep.
Those are the two you're probably going to pound on offense a little bit. So
yeah, and the defense is going to be good. So
no coaching changes on the football side of things.
Craig Lynch, of course, has stepped away over at at Glidden Ralston, and Dave Prescott, I understand, is going to be the new head football coach over there. And Austin Stolk was a co-head coach in the past at Arweva, and I understand that he's going to be solo as the lone head coach for the Rockets this year. Other than that, haven't heard of any changes yet on any of the staffs. So we should be good to go.
How about the volleyball side of things? If we're looking at fall, I know Carroll High's got a new volleyball coach, you said.
We do, yeah. Carroll High, Riley Ludwig, former great player from up there, and setter is going to be taken over there. Kara Peter, who won a state championship at Kemper, is going to be taken over at Arweva. So those are the two new coaches that I'm aware of as of right now.
Two young and good coaches that have had a lot of experience on the volleyball court, going to be back in the community, and I think that's good for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Bodes well for the future.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Kara Peter does with the Arweva program then. I mean, what does she take from the Kemper program to try to build that program?
Right,
more?
And I know she's put a lot of time in this summer, as has Riley, kind of already starting, the work on the fundamentals and all of those things. And, yeah, so it's going to be interesting. I'll be honest with you, I didn't do a whole lot but travel this weekend. So once the baseball and softball, I haven't started really digging in, to the fall teams too much. I'll start looking at the dates for our preview shows where we'll interview our coaches here this week, and we'll get that stuff figured out. But Casey's probably already started to dig into it. But
I haven't digged into volleyball that much, but. Kemper's going to be Kemper.
Kemper's going to be Kemper.
They always reload. I think it's going to be. Might be a different Kemper team than what we've seen.
Right.
Because we're used to Kemper having those tall girls at the net that can really swing and stuff like that. But their back row play might be
a strength.
It's a very very good strength for them this year.
Very strong last year, and they've got
a lot of those girls are back.
Yep.
And I think it's going to be tough having to replace Franny and Casey Peter and Aubrey Houghton and Lauren Bell. Olivia Schenkelberg and Brandon Whitrock are going to have big shoes to fill, and I think they can do it. But, you're going to have to find that third or fourth girl that can come in for you.
And they always seem to have them developed and ready to go. Yep. There's another Peter coming up into it, Colby, I think. So, it'll be interesting. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it's not that far away. When does practice actually start for the fall sports season?
Next week.
Next week.
Yep.
So it's almost here.
Yeah.
It's going to be crazy. You need to download that sports app. I keep telling everybody all the time on the air. It's like, download that if you want to be ready for the sports season. Yeah, that's what you need.
Yeah, and Casey actually called me yesterday, and he goes, have you got the volleyball schedule done yet? When are we starting to go around all of the different scrimmages and all that stuff that are going to be starting?
Yeah, Jeff's wanting to break, and I'm like, let's get going.
He's ready to roll. We're going to talk Ottoman softball here coming up next on KCIM Sports Rewind.
As the athletes at your house prepare for hard work and fun of the season, remember that St. Anthony Rehab Services provides physical therapy for any sports injury that may sideline your member of the team. Sports injuries can plague kids of all ages and keep them from playing the sport they love. Athletes will be under the direct supervision of a certified and licensed healthcare professional in the newly renovated sports performance facility. If an injury is keeping your athlete out of the game, call St. Anthony Rehabilitation Services at 794-5000 for sports injury and treatment rehab.
All right, KCIM Sports Rewind, and I hate to say it, but I just didn't really have time to look up a trivia question, so we're going to recycle one.
Have we done it before?
Well, no, not that we've had it before. It's an old question. It's not very timely.
Okay.
Baseball All-Star game.
Okay.
So it's a couple weeks old. Let's see. Bruce Bochy became the second skipper in Major League history to win an All-Star game in both leagues. he was the second. Who was the first?
Well, I
I'm
wouldn't
going to
know.
say Sparky Anderson.
That's what my guess would have been. Would have been
Okay.
Sparky with the Reds and,
Right, and
then in front of
Detroit.
it.
Yeah.
You couldn't be more wrong.
Okay.
So,
Jim
yeah.
Leland? No, because he
Nope.
was
Jim
only in the
Leland.
National League.
Would Joe Madden be somebody like that?
No,
I didn't-
not Joe Madden. He was with the Rays
And then the
what,
Cubs.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joe Torre. Cardinals? No. Cardinals and Yankees.
And when I give you the answer, you're going to go, well, yeah, obviously.
Tony La Russa?
Tony La Russa.
Yeah, Tony La Russa. Oakland and St. Louis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's obvious too.
Right,
It's like,
yeah.
wow, he did. He was phenomenal in both areas. So,
Yeah.
yeah, he was the first to do that, to win an All-Star game in both leagues.
Phenomenal, absolutely, but couldn't beat my Cincinnati Reds in the 1990 World Series,
Could
baby.
not stand him. Being a Twins fan, I hated the Oakland A's,
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
Bash Brothers and all that, and I
Yeah.
never liked Tony La Russa. And then he went and joined the White Sox. I'm like, oh well, there you go. There's the perfect match. I don't like the White Sox either. And
He
so-
was there before he went to Oakland, if I remember correct, wasn't
he?
I
And
think
then
he
when he won,
I think he was
Bano,
with the White
he got
Sox.
fired
Yeah.
from being the White Sox skipper here recently.
Yeah, but I think
Yeah.
if I remember correctly, he was with the White Sox, then went out to Oakland, then to St. Louis, and then came back.
and then back to the
To
White
the
Sox.
White
Because
Sox,
he
yeah.
ran the White Sox into the ground to what they are today.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, that's true. He was a lawyer before doing any of this.
Right.
He actually has a law degree, but the baseball thing worked out pretty well.
Yeah,
for him.
one of the great coaches, you know,
yeah.
whether you like him or not, he
got
won.
results.
Besides the second time with the White Sox, and who wins a lot with the White Sox anyway.
I know. They should never win, as far as I'm concerned. Audubon softball, let's talk about that. What a run.
Yeah.
I mean, what a crazy way to get to the championship game by winning 2 in the last inning.
Yeah, special run for them. What a great group. I know Doug Waniger said it to me. He called me after the championship game the other day, and we chatted for just a little bit, the next morning. And he's like, he says, I hadn't seen him before the regional final, and then he did the first 2 state games and then had a family event and couldn't come up for the championship game. And thanks to Mark Fielmeyer for helping out there. But just a special group. These are really good kids. And, you grow a connection to that team. I think if you watch it a couple of times, there was a connection with that team because they just, there was a no-quit attitude. They worked hard.
I was saying, was there confidence in those late innings that they knew that they could?
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, it's not like this is a fluke.
No,
I mean, you even saw it in the bottom of the 7th against Van Meter. The first 2, they had got an out and then 2 quick outs, and the next thing you know, it's a base hit and a base hit, and all of a sudden you got girls on 2nd and 3rd. You're right back. You're right back in the game there in the top of the 7th.
Yeah, tying run on the base, in the 7th inning in that championship game. Just no quitting. And I think that they get some of that, I think, from Coach Schwery, and just some of that from, themselves. But just what, like you said, what a special run to win the regional final in the bottom of the 7th, and then to come back and win your opening round game, the quarterfinals at the state tournament in the bottom of the 7th, and then they have to, to give up a lead and then have to come back and do it, and then kind of same thing in that, in the semis, they're down 2-0 going into
the whole game.
Semi, going into the 7th, and I know Doug kind of leaned into me during one of the breaks, and he goes, "They're in trouble," and I'm like, they are. At the same time, though, I've seen this out of them quite often this year, and you knew until that last out was done that they weren't done because they weren't going to quit.
Yeah, 2 big Wiggins wins to get them to the state finals and their first ever trip to the state tournament, let alone the state championship game. And what a great game that was, too.
Yeah. Outplayed, I thought, Van Meter most of the game.
I think they struggled when Van Meter switched pitchers.
They did.
I think that was evident because the girl that came in, after their starter was throwing a lot slower, and I think they, until that later in the game, they really struggled to catch up, to adjust to the change of speed.
Yeah, and I talked to Jordan Porsche in the postgame, and I asked her about that, and she said that, the girl that came in second threw a lot more like what the pitchers did in the Western Iowa Conference, and she thinks that they got anxious thinking that they were going to be able to just hit her well, and, kind of went up there and probably just weren't as focused and kind of swung early, and those kind of hurt themselves a little bit. But give her, that young lady, a lot of credit. She came in a
tough moment.
Tough moment. You're down in the championship game. Your star pitcher is struggling and walking people and giving up some hits, and you're down 3-1, and Audubon had all the momentum, and she came in and shut the door until that 7th inning and didn't give up any runs, but gave up some hits.
Yeah, that's a crazy way to end that one, because I saw this. We were up in Fort Dodge, and I happened to look up the TV. They were showing on it, and they were up 2-1. And I thought, Van Meter was hands down the consensus pick to be like they're going to walk away with it.
I think if you talk to a lot of media people, Van Meter might have been the best team out of all 5 classes, arguably.
Well, and you look at comparisons. Carlisle edges ADM in the 4A championship. Van Meter played ADM earlier in the year and beat him 13-1. So it kind of tells you. I said this on the air, with Mark the other day in the championship game. I think if you'd have asked anybody that was there that wasn't there, like to us to cover Audubon or hadn't, wasn't an Audubon fan, I think 95% of the people would have said Van Meter, and a lot would have probably said Van Meter maybe easy, but not because Audubon's not a really good team, but they had handled a lot of really good teams easily throughout the season. And I'm not going to give away the name, but I was talking with an official from the union before the game started, and they mentioned something about their statement was, well, this has been pretty special for Audubon. Your first time ever getting to the state tournament, and you take second, and that was before the championship game was even played. So that was kind of, and I'm not trying to say anything bad about it. I think that was what most people were thinking, and if you'd have went to those people going into the bottom of the 6th inning, they'd have said, I think Audubon wins this. They were up 3-1 going into the bottom of the 6th inning. So
how many jaws would have dropped had that score stayed the same?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, but a tremendous effort. I had so much fun getting a chance to, to cover those games, and I think you enjoyed shooting the video and getting the video highlights out. And we thank Jeff Storihan for going up and taking photos of the quarterfinals and then the finals, and so we had a crew of people up there, and it was wow. Yeah. Hadn't been to state softball to cover a team since Glidden made it when Lauren Malberg and that group made state about a decade ago. So
that was 10 years. Wow.
Yeah.
That was a long while ago.
8 to 10 years ago is what we're figuring is how long ago that was. So.
I tell you, maybe make your plans for next year. I mean, this Audubon team, they return just about everybody, don't they?
No, they graduated 6 seniors.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So they're gonna return.
But they have 2 key pieces coming back. I mean, you bring back Riley Miller and Taryn Peterson,
and don't forget Anna Larson out there and left.
Anna Larson out there and left, but Riley hit 4th, was dominant in the circle for him this year. Taryn played short, was their 2 hitters. So, you have 2 big key pieces to move around. Then Anna, you expect, played her freshman season with Audubon, now played this year with the 2 schools combined. And then, next year expect her to, just improve more. And Andy's such a good coach. I feel like she'll have girls ready to go next year.
I honestly think she outcoached a lot of the coaches she coached against up at the state tournament. And I don't think she'll take credit for that. But, you look at the first game against West Monona, a team that hit the ball really hard all year long. So she played her outfielders deep, very deep and stuff. And that threw them off because they were so used to being able to hit the ball over somebody's head. They didn't know how to not hit it deep. So everything that they were hitting was an easy fly ball because the defense was right there. And then, just some of the moves that she made in the Eddyville-Blakesburg-Fremont game in the semifinals. And, give her credit for coming up with, Van Meter's going to want to bunt and run a lot. Well, they didn't get an opportunity to bunt and run a lot because of the way they pitched the Van Meter hitters and kind of forced them to not be able to lay down the bunt and everything else. And Riley held them to 2 hits, I think, going into the 5th or 6th inning, if I remember right. So you imagine how good she is right now as a freshman. She keeps getting physically stronger.
And you know that she was probably took the weekend off, but was right back at it.
I don't even know if she took the weekend off. I honestly, she had cried, of course, but she wasn't crying. But when I interviewed her in the postgame after that championship game, there was a sadness, but I think there was a little bit of a disappointment and an anger that especially with that 2-run home run.
When she gave up that 2-run home run that gave up that kind of, gave Van Meter the lead, I think she was upset and disappointed, but she's like, let's go back at this.
Yeah, and I think that probably by Sunday morning, she was probably doing something. I mean, heck, we found out Cal Hayden was doing a workout just a couple of days after the baseball season, was over. So the special ones, there's not time off. They maybe give a little bit of time, but they get right back to work.
Yeah, I mean, Audubon's going to be there next year, or at least going to have another good season next year.
Yep.
They're primed for that. Who else in the softball area has maybe got that young talent to maybe make a move next year? Because the rest of the year was a struggle for the teams.
It was. It was kind of a tough year a little bit. I like the way Arweva played late in the season and stuff. I think they're going to be good. Kuhn's another one that jumps out to me. Almost they lose Briley Clayberg, but pretty much that entire starting lineup is sophomores, and you got to figure Anna Hart returned this year after the broken foot and the broken ankle, and is going to be healthy from the get-go and stuff. So I think Kuhn's got a chance to take some pretty good steps forward.
I think Kemper's going to be good next year, too. I mean, you lose big pieces, but
you do. But
there's
you
a
got
lot
Miley Schaefer
of young
build
girls
around
on that team.
Yep,
so.
absolutely. There's some really good talent to build around. ICAM Manning just continues to get a little bit better down there. I'm not saying state tournament for them or anything next year, but you could see some major improvement for them as well next season.
Yeah, they had a rough start to their season. I mean, it was very up in the air until the last moment.
Yes, yeah, and they're still young. I mean, they didn't have a senior getting playing time, and stuff. So that's going to be a program that's going to come on. I think ESAC with their young pitching will have a chance to improve.
Yeah, graduate a lot of seniors.
Yep, they do, but they're going to have a chance to improve in the circle as they get older. And for South Central Calhoun, it sounds like they're going to have to find a new coach, and hopefully they can go out and find somebody that's going to be there long term. And I know that comes from talking with Emma Anderson, who had played there and everything. They need to find some consistency and find a coach that's going to be there and start with the youth programs and build their way up.
All right, state baseball, let's talk about that real quick because 2 champions crowned here in Carroll. Great showcase for Merchants Park. Talk about the state baseball tournament. Casey, you were there on championship day.
Yeah, I mean, the 1A game might have caught people off guard because Linville-Sully kind of handled St. Mary's, pretty easily. 7-1 was the final and struggled against the Homan pitcher, who I believe is a D1 kid. Not sure if he's going to Iowa, but the last couple of times we've seen him, there's been Iowa scouts there for him, but... So, yeah, that kind of caught me off guard. And then Underwood, I don't know if you saw how the game ended, but we were driving back from Fort Dodge, and Mark was telling me that the kid in right field dove for the ball. They wasn't sure if he caught it, but ended up calling it a catch and then tagging a guy out at second for a double play to end the game.
To end the game against New Hampton. So, I didn't get a chance to see how that one ended. I was probably sitting at the restaurant trying to write my story from the Audubon game and stuff. But, it was a fun tournament. I got to be out there.
A lot of close, good games.
Yeah, I think I was out there part of Monday, most of Monday pretty much. I think I was there for all 4 games on Monday. Then I was out there for the 2 games Thursday. Otherwise, with state softball, I didn't get a chance. You probably saw more of the state baseball tournament than I did. But
had the longest game in state baseball tournament history.
Yeah,
with Remsen and who they play in the second round.
In the second round, that would have been Newman Catholic.
Yeah, Newman Catholic.
So
went
14 innings.
14 innings, a rain delay in there, an umpire change, and almost took 5 hours.
Almost took 5 hours for that game to get played. So
I understand everybody left that stadium about 12:30.
About 12:30 that night. So I think your volunteers are a little wore down and stuff. And you look at what Underwood did, fall down 5-0 to Sheraton in the first inning. They were down 7-2 at one point in that game, and then they rally back to win their semifinal round game 8-7, and that gets them into the finals, and then able to win that championship. So congratulations goes out to them.
Yeah, great showcase. Once again, Town of Carroll did a tremendous job. This was the last of a 3-year contract. I can't imagine the association saying, we're going to move that anytime soon.
You talk to the guys from the association and gals that come here and work the tournament. Carroll puts so much into it, and I tip my cap because it's a lot of the same people that volunteer every year. But they get more volunteers probably than what they need. But what that makes it do is it makes it run really smooth and really easy and stuff. So they do a tremendous job, and I can see it. You're right. This was the end of a 3-year run, but I don't think it's going to be going anywhere anytime soon.
I can't imagine that would be the case at all. So Underwood captures the 2A crown, Linville-Sully the 1A crown. Dead week. Everybody's taking a little breather this week. I remember when they first instituted this, everybody's like they moved things up, and now kind of settled into this whole thing, haven't they? Yeah,
they have. I still think that, you talk to the summer coaches and the season feels too fast and too crammed together, and I think, for fan bases, I would almost
they're changing
wonder
that next year now with 24 dates.
Yes, so that'll be the interesting thing. They're not changing the amount of games you can play, but they're changing the amount of dates. They're limiting the dates. So I think you're going to see
a lot of
more weekend tournaments and stuff. I think you're going to see, Kuhn did it earlier this year where they played somebody at 3 and then played, IK Manning at 7 that night after the, or at 4. I think you're going to see more of that. You might see 11 o'clock games and then, 5:30 or 6 o'clock games that night.
Split double headers.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll be really interesting because you're going to have some coaches that are going to say, okay, we'll play 24 or 25 games, and then you're going to have some that are like, no, I'm still playing my 40 games, and I'm going to find a way to get my 40 games in those 24 dates.
Yeah.
That's going to be interesting to watch the next few years. That is for sure.
And,
so that's
and I know we're running a little bit long here, but John Hayden talked about it at the state baseball tournament. You look at the teams that were at the state baseball tournament; they're the teams that are playing the 35 to 40, games a year. It's not the teams that are playing the 20 to 24.
And they're
games
generally
a year.
The solid programs that are built up year after year that have that tradition.
Right, and that's part of the reason why they can play more games is because they're in a baseball heavy town and
more kids out for the game.
The kids don't mind playing all the extra games and everything else. So
if you can schedule, why not? If you can schedule a game at noon, maybe a game at 7 o'clock. If you've got the kids, the numbers, without wearing down your athletes, why not?
Yeah, I like them better at 5 o'clock than the 7 o'clock. I'll take that 11 o'clock start and then the 5:30 start.
Give me a noon game. What the heck?
Absolutely. Casey and I'd love to go out and broadcast some 11 o'clock noon games. Yeah.
Yeah, you get to bed a lot earlier than that you normally get to bed at. So that is KCIM Sports Rewind for this week. Once again, catch a podcast available on the website here coming up in just a few moments.